We're ready. Okay,
Excellent.
are you ready for me to take the roll call vote?
Please, yes, I would like to call the meeting to order, so please go ahead and establish the quorum and
Okay,
take a roll
President
call.
Vella,
Here.
Vice President Zuka, Director Jordan,
Here.
Director Schmidt, and Director Wheeler.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Excellent, very good. So we'll go on to item number 2, which is the public comments. Any, Monique?
No, I did not receive any
No?
written public comments.
Excellent. All right, so we'll move on to item number 3, agenda review. Any changes to the agenda? The agenda looks good for everyone.
The only thing that we did, Louis, is a little while ago, Michael Anderson had prepared some slides to show the board members the flood here at the Dairy Lane office. So we added those to the agenda, so it changes the page numbering in there. So Monique sent out an email to everybody saying we had done that. So if you're looking on your agenda packet, the hard copy, your pages are not going to line up with the agenda you're going to see me showing here on the screen. Okay, so we'll have to work through that.
That's fine, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah, we were. You guys had warned us already, and I already saw the slides. So
Okay.
very impressive, but we'll get to that later.
Yes.
All right, excellent. So we'll move on to item number 4, which is the fun item, which is the acknowledgement and presentation. And we have Ron Leitner, Water Systems Operator. So I'll turn it over to you, Renee.
Yeah, thanks, Louis. So you may recall that we had a 25-year recognition of Ron Leitner back in September. He celebrated 25 years of service to the district. And I believe at that time, we also mentioned too that Ron was looking to retire here very early in 2023. And so that's why we're here. He is going to retire. Unfortunately, Ron had a family matter that came up. So it's, he's not available to be here tonight. And also just a reminder that tomorrow we had planned a retirement luncheon for Ron at the Iron Gate, and that's been postponed because of his family issue. So as soon as we can coordinate that, we will let folks know again so that they can hopefully attend and come celebrate Ron's work with the Mid-Peninsula Water District, 25 years of service. I think a lot of us said it all back then. I'm not sure if anybody wants to add anything. Tammy, Michael, others might want to say something, but just recognizing Ron's years of service to the district was the purpose tonight.
I was just gonna add a few things that, Ron, 25 years almost, it's just such a long time. And he's been working through many of the different functions and tasks here at the district. And, gets along with the others folks. And in these last few months, he's just been getting ready to retire and relocate. So we've just tried to be supportive of him, especially with this recent family issue. And as soon as we know that we're going to reschedule, because he likes the idea and wants to have his retirement luncheon, he and his wife both, they were very eager to do that. We'll get that rescheduled and get that notice out to you. So thank you, Rena, for reminding them that it is canceled for tomorrow.
Yeah.
But we'll get it rescheduled again for the Iron Gate. But just a really nice guy. I helped Ron and Melissa through the retirement process with CalPERS. And it's just my pleasure to have worked with him for, now almost 10 and a half of his career here at the district. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, Rena.
Thanks, Tammy. And then Ron was one of the few employees that actually lives here. There's Brian that lives here in Belmont. I think with his retirement, we lost the last one. The other two were Brent Chester and then Brad Burwell, and both retired. Of course, Brad passed last year. But so Ron is the last employee that actually lives here in Belmont. Michael, did you want to say anything about your coworker, Ron? Here he is.
Sure, I'll say a little bit. I wish he were on right now, but it's been great working with Ron. It's been 24 years we've been working together, so that's a long time to spend with somebody day to day, day in and day out. Like Rena, like you always say, we have a work family here because we spend so much time with each other. So it's been great working with Ron. He's been a dedicated employee and very consistent. He's always here. He's always ready to go We've, you know, he even helped me out at a point in my life when I had some challenges, and I actually lived with Ron for 6 months many years back. And he's a little rough around the edges, but so am I. So we definitely create some friction, but that's what family does, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we just survive together and work together. So I wish you were here, and I look forward to when we reschedule his lunch, and I look forward to seeing him again.
Yeah.
I appreciate
Thanks,
Ron a
Michael.
lot.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Yeah. Thanks,
Very-
Louis.
Very good. Yeah, all very nice and beautiful comments on a coworker, and you know, I agree. We do spend so much time with our coworkers that when we say it becomes family, I remember growing up in a large family. I am one of 9.
Yeah.
My biggest rivals and the people that I fought the most with were my brothers, and but we are still as close can be, even to this day. So you know, the family, you know, they do have their differences, but when it means pulling the same rope, they know how to get together and they will pull for each other.
And
So,
that's what happens here,
good.
Louis. Exactly what happens here.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. It's a great tribute to Ron
It is.
for the long service. All right. Very good. So with that, please, Rena, please keep us informed about the retirement thing that you're gonna do, because if I happen to be going to be in town, that I would like to, you know, come by and just wish him well and all that, you know. So
We will. We'll keep
Yep.
the board informed when we can reschedule this for Ron. Thank you.
excellent. Very good. Okay, so we're ready to move on to the next item, which is the consent calendar. Any of the directors want to comment on or pull any of the items on the consent calendar? Please let me know, or shake your hands or nothing. Okay, very good. So we ready to approve the consent calendar? You heard a motion for approval of the
I'll move
consent
to-
calendar?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar.
Excellent. So we have a motion by Director Jordan,
Second,
second by Director Wheeler. Thank you very much. Monique,
Okay, Director Jordan,
Yes.
Director Wheeler,
yes.
Director Schmidt,
Yes.
and President Vella.
yes.
Okay,
All right,
motion
good.
passes.
Thank you. And item number 6, hearing and appeals, we have none. And we'll move on to item number 7, which is the Mid-Peninsula Water District fiscal year 2016 to 2021 CIP and the COP. So we'll turn it over to Renee.
Yeah, thanks, Louis.
Okay,
So this
thank
is the semi-annual report that Dan Bergman makes to the board, and also in this case to Al Labossiere prepared some preliminary information. And Al, do you want to go over some of the information here just quickly, and then we'll turn it over to Dan and let him make his presentation as well.
Sure. The first page, the fiscal impact, just lists the starting COPS amount and less the additional transfer to the funds, less the costs to date, and then it adds in the dividends to date for what the ending balance is as of December 31st, 2022. So
Yep,
that's
so-
basically a big picture.
So we spent $14 million on capital projects through the end of calendar year 2022, and we still have about $5.8 million left to spend. And we're hoping that by the end of this calendar year, we will have that money spent, and we'll be using any reserves in the district's name to finish some capital project before we do anything else. And so that's the staff side of it. So now let's go over to Mr. Bergman. Dan.
Thank you, Rena. Thank you, board. I wanted to say board and honorable staff, but you are all honorable. I appreciate the light-hearted nature of your meetings. What I have here is a another semi-annual report. I've been providing these reports to you since the beginning back in 2016. Let's skip the text. When we scroll down and look at pages 2 and 3, what you're seeing there is the monthly accounting straight from the bank statements showing the balances each month. And the numbers you see in the totals there are very close to what you just saw. The one difference is that there was a couple checks that didn't clear at the end of the year, which throws off the totals a little bit. So we'll just move on because I'm going to show you a picture of this. This next is again showing each of the requisitions between July and December 31st. There were more requisitions and reconciling back to the bank statements. And in this case, allocating the COP dollars to the specific projects and showing you that construction construction contributions were made on 3 of the projects: El Camino, Vine Street, Zone 5, and the reimbursement for the project on Old County Road. And there you can see that amount I mentioned down at the bottom. 342,667 is what hadn't cleared at the end of the year because the checks were cut at the end of December and they didn't clear the bank until January. Moving on. This shows the total allocation of COP dollars over the entire period to each of the projects. And what was done, you may remember, is that we needed a few more projects in the mix beyond the original projects that were approved. You see those down in the bottom: Harbor Boulevard, DeKoven, the transmission line assessment, to help us utilize the COP funds. The objective right now really is to finish utilizing those full COP funds. The plan, of course, is that they will be utilized by the end of the year. Moving down. Yeah, so here's the graphic representation I've been showing you. $14.2 million spent, 5.8 to go. The total with the dividends that have accrued over the 5+ years at this point is just right at $20 million. So the goal really right now is to get through those projects in 2023, get the money fully utilized. And that's something that you and Renee can comment, Rena can comment more about. And that is my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan Bergman. And Renee, going forward, so you anticipate this money will be spent at the end of this fiscal year, correct?
Yeah, that's our intent, Louis. We have a couple of projects that the board awarded at the end of December, right? The Harbor Boulevard project and also the Hastings Service project. The Hastings Service project, if I recall right, the award was a little over $700,000. And then the harbor, I want to say, was $2.5 to $3 million. And then we also have the Old County Road project. We are just that close to getting ready to put that out to bid. I was talking with Jubin's office, who's been helping us kind of manage that project with a consultant. That project's estimate is about $6 million, and we're thinking that probably sometime in the second half of 2023 we'll start construction. And so I think between those 3 projects, we're going to be really close to have spent down that entire remaining $5.8 million.
Just to kind of add to what Rena was saying, two of those projects have already, just to emphasize, 2 of those projects have already been awarded to the contractor, right? Yeah. So the contracts have been signed, and it's just a matter of them starting in the next month, few months. So about half of this $5 million has already, contracts have been signed, and we're going to start construction. So that is already, in my mind, kind of off the books because they're going to start construction. And then the Old County Road, it's just kind of been dragging with a couple of final stuff that I'll talk about under the engineer's report, but that's a $6 million project. But if they start in the middle of the year, we'll be spending down that last half, $2.5 million that's left on this thing. So I I fully expect that we'll be done with this money by the end of the calendar year.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So Rena and Juben, you can probably anticipate the next question, and that's going to be the bottom of the list that Dan Bergman alluded to when other things come up, so do you anticipate that the money that we have is going to, do you anticipate things are going to come up that we may not have enough to complete, or that's going to put us back, financially?
We have enough money in our reserves, Louis, to pay for the completion of these 3 projects we're talking about, and then going forward, part of the rate study, you and Kirk may recall that part of the rate study we've been talking about and sharing with the finance committee is the potential for, another debt issuance to continue the capital project. If not, then we'll have to work within whatever our operating budget is, and year to year. If you recall in the past, we had budgeted anywhere from $1 million to $1.5 million pay-go capital
Correct.
to do until we issued the certificates of participation. But these 3 projects we're talking about, we will have enough money with the COP dollars and what money we have in reserves to pay for those projects to completion.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Let's see, Director Schmidt.
Yeah, thanks. I recall from prior discussions of this, we were concerned about consequences about not, if we did not spend the money by a deadline. Can you remind us about that, and whether it's still a relevant issue?
Dan, do you want to help explain?
Who's going to take this?
Yeah, so I was gonna see if I can have Dan explain.
Dan, if you could, please.
Yeah, well, okay, so I'm stepping in here for your financial advisor. The concern that we've heard him talk about is the issue with its arbitrage, right? The concern that you're making more money than you're paying in interest, that issue. Also, the representation that when the bonds were issued, the funds would be needed for capital projects that were going to happen really soon. In the various cities I've worked, there's been other places where they've had the same issue even longer than this. And I haven't ever observed it to come back to be an issue. The main thing here is that you are working, in my opinion, as not a financial advisor, but what we represented is that you're working diligently to get these projects done. You are not delaying at this point. And so that's my
recollection. Yeah, that's my recollection as well as your former general manager, is that the progress is made, the balance is down to 5 million, and it's the largest project. So we're going to be doing fine, especially now that we know with Harbor already bid out and about to be constructed, and same with the Hastings service connections. A lot of that 5 million is going to be disappearing. So I think we're in very good shape, and that's exactly what I recollect as well.
And it counts for whatever purposes as expended once a contract is awarded. We don't have to wait until payment occurs.
We don't use an encumbrance system here, so I would probably say no initially, Brian, to that question. It is a good question, but I know that if the lender is waiting on our audit, our financial audit. Okay, we do know that the BNY and they're waiting on that, and they realize that we're doing it a little later this year. But once they get those financial documents, they're pretty much satisfied because they can see the progress. They see Dan's chart. They see that we're regularly updating the board. They can see it out on the website. So I think that they're going to be fine, and seeing, that these projects are going to be done by the end of this year, that we're in pretty good shape.
Director Schmidt, I just want to clarify that my statement was, we're actually going to be expending the cash. So it's not just, so literally the checks will be written by the end of 2023, our anticipation, because once Harbor and the Hastings project start, that's $2.5 million worth of these $5 million that we're going to be writing checks every month, going out as they construct. So I think what Rena and I are talking about is actually physically, however you want to phrase it, the cash going out of our account, to pay for these projects. So not just the project being complete, but the cash going out. So, because that always lags.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so as long as we are basically showing progress, due diligence and all that, based on what we have seen, we should be okay.
We're in good
Correct.
shape. Yeah.
Good. All right. Any more questions for Dan or about the topic? Anybody? All right. I guess that's it, Dan. Thank you
Thanks,
very
Dan.
much. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
See you in 6 months.
Thank you. We'll see you. All right. Very well. So we'll move on to item number 8, which is the regular business agenda and the December 31st event.
Yeah, so Louis, what I'd like to start here is actually the slides that Michael presented. So I'm going to go to those. And Michael, I'd like you just kind of provide a little bit of background for, a little bit of context for these slides. Just tell me when you want me to go to the next slide.
Sure. So this picture, the first picture was taken when I actually arrived on that day, which was at about 12:50 in the afternoon. And go ahead and go to the next slide, Rena.
I just want to point something out here. So on the
Okay.
left-hand side, you see the pickup truck, you see the green garbage can. That green garbage can is our compostable waste. It's usually standing upright by the gate entrance there. The water evidently got so high and the can was empty that it floated the can over to the left of the picture and then toppled it over. There was that much water.
Yeah, there was a ton of water. So this picture was taken probably about 30 minutes later. So that first picture that was taken at about 12:50 in the afternoon, the tide was going down. We thought that, we were gonna not have as much of an issue, even though we were still,
The water was going to recede probably.
yeah, we were
Is it-
still working on, filling sandbags, just because we knew that there was another rain event coming very shortly after that was just about to start. And it did start. And as soon as it started, we just saw the water start to rise immediately. This picture is about 30 minutes later after the first picture. And you can just see that the water is rising quickly. It's way past where there was a pile of tambark that was in the yard there. And it's way past that. It's up to almost up to the building here. So it was very surprising. I mean, I've said it many times and I'll say it again. I've been there for 24 years. I've never seen anything like this. The way that the water just continued to rise. You can go to the next slide, Rena. This is just another example of pretty much the full event. This is kind of towards the end of our day, even though there's more slides that'll show in between. But this is, there was about, you can continue, Rena. There was about a foot of water surrounding the building. This is kind of toward the back of our building. I guess the retaining wall or the sound barrier for the 101 freeway. And you can see that those boxes are about a foot tall, but they're buried underwater. So you can just see the depth. This picture shows what it looks like from the inside looking out in the lobby area. The water was about 6 inches above the bottom of the doors. And our sandbags and plastic were helping us out there a little bit. We're not flooded yet, but it's definitely coming. And as we continue, you can just see that eventually just the water is just seeping through the sandbags, seeping through. It's really hard to stop water, and it just continued to come through. So these pictures are kind of similar. They just show the same story. This was the first, just kind of like, oh man, it's so depressing to see. Like, Rena always talks about our family yeah, at work, our work family, and this is our work home, so for me, I've been here 24 years, and again, I would continue to say that, but it's depressing. It's hard to see, your home just be taken over in a way that you can't really control. So we started to try to get our shop vacs and try to suck up the water as much as we can, but it was just overwhelming. And again, here's a picture of the shop. It continues. You can continue, Rena. It just shows that the water was. So this is actually the following morning after accepting defeat, which was really hard for me. But you can just see that it looks so calming. It looks so peaceful right there. It's like a little lake, but the water did recede finally the following day. There was the floating bucket that I was watching for a while, and that's where it ended up. So that's why I took that picture. But the water was just so powerful. It just moved so many things. There's a picture of large planter boxes that, were heavy, filled with dirt. But once the water got into them, they stood no chance. And you can just kind of see the destruction. Now, I don't know if that video, oh, maybe I can't, I guess you
It
can't play
didn't.
the video. Oh, that's
Yeah.
strange. Okay.
Yeah, it didn't open up.
Okay, so that video was a video of some of our staff who were pushing out the water with squeegees and trying to, exit the water from the building the day after. This picture shows kind of where we are right now, preparing for or the following day, but it's all still out there, but preparing for, rain events that were predicted and were coming. And fortunately, we didn't have any other water enter the building after the main event. You can continue, Rena. Thank you. Just some other pictures. There's a hose coming from one of our pumps that behind our barrier. And Rena had the great idea of this barrier, just laying down some plastic and using base rock to create the barrier, and then putting the plastic back over the top. And I was so ready for the water to rise and give us the same battle and fight that we experienced the first night, but it never happened. It got close, but it never happened. I'm sure we would have won. I was ready.
You can see that we actually put some of that expanding foam around these windows because we noticed that the water was coming in there, so whatever we do with this building, one of the things we're going to recommend is we don't put, floor to ceiling windows because they just tend to leak. And that's where we noticed water was coming in throughout the building. Is just where the windows, and the buildings came together.
Yeah. And the interesting thing about that was that we put sandbags at the bottom of the windows, thinking that that's where the water was going to come in. But when we were inside the building, as our second event happened, we saw water coming in from the very top of the windows, which was kind of surprising. It was coming from the top of the windows and just leaking its way down to the floor.
Interesting.
So it was interesting, but we learned. So this is just a picture of that's our main power shut off.
Michael,
Go ahead. Yes.
like sometimes, with the wind, water tends to do that too, because the wind was whipping that water and it goes through every single crevice, regardless whether it's in the lower elevation or the higher elevation. The wind pushes the water in, sometimes even through roofs it does, underneath the, eaves and all of that. But that could be one of the reasons why there was water coming in. But it could be also because of cracks between the openings. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, yes. Working for the water district for 24 years, I know water does some interesting things. It finds its way, and it will always find its way. So this is what the office space looks like now. This is the hallway with the restroom doors in it, leading towards the boardroom. And then this was our little kitchen area. It is completely just gone. Restoration management, they came in and removed all the carpeting. They remove the sheetrock 2 feet from the floor up throughout the whole office space, just to make sure that there's no
They came in with some moisture sensors to find out how far up the wall the moisture went, and then working with the insurance adjuster from Aqua JPIA, you know, that adjuster said, hey, let's start with taking out that first couple of feet from the bottom up, and that's what they did. And well, one of the other staffers was telling me that these people were so efficient that they had just 33-gallon size trash bags with them, and they would take out the sheetrock after they cut it out nice and clean, and they would break it up into small pieces they could put in their bag. And when they got the bag heavy enough that they could carry it, they would then tote it out to maybe a wheelbarrow or something like that, but eventually went into a large roll-off container that was parked out in the parking area out there. And if I remember right, Michael, you can help me. I think that they came out with like 10 to 12, maybe 15 people. And within a day, they had all the sheetrock out that they wanted to get out. You know, they had approval to get out.
Yep, they were very efficient.
There's
So
a
here
board.
is your boardroom. It looks the same as the rest of the building, and it's just been completely gutted, no carpeting, no flooring, and I think there's only one more picture that shows the boardroom, and that's where typically you'd be sitting right now.
Yeah.
So
right
that
now,
is,
we're waiting for the insurance adjuster to come out and take a look at this dais because, as I mentioned, I think we mentioned in the staff report and other places that the flooding event not only was a stormwater, but it was raw sewage. And so anything that water touched that was wood had to be either disinfected and or then maybe possibly thrown away. So the insurance adjuster, seeing this dais here and this wood framing on the floor, you know, he's supposed to come back out and then give us an opinion as to whether or not this dais can be saved with some sort of cleaning or if it's going to have to be thrown away. Our office furniture, it's pretty much all gone. There were just a few pieces of office furniture that was new that had metal legs that even though they got, you know, inundated with the dirty water, they could be clean. But any type of office furniture that was wood or particle board and, you know, laminates and so on, all that stuff, the adjuster said it has to be thrown away. It's not safe. So that's, you know, kind of where we're at right now. We're just don't have any office space and we don't have any office furniture. Michael, thank you for putting this together for us.
yeah,
So
sure. You're welcome.
I want to go back to the staff report. It's on page 34. Yes, and Kat's going to provide, you know, an overview to and background to the board of the activities that have taken place since. Kat?
All right, well, Happy New Year. This isn't the way I expected it to start at all. But here we are. So, you know, to start with the, you know, the background section here, of course, you know about the large storm, and you know, the wonderful pictures that Michael showed. To give you the context, obviously it's a huge storm event. Many, you know, states of emergency were declared. You know, both San Carlos and Belmont declared their own states of emergency. The county, the governor, as well as the president of the United States declared it for here. So we submitted, as part of the FEMA process, initial damage estimates to the county, who's coordinating with Cal OES Cal OES to follow their process. The initial damage estimate came to $420,000 for our district alone. These categories you see here are the, you know, specific FEMA IDE categories. So, you know, they're a little funny, but debris removal, that's really kind of primarily the emergency area restoration services cost to remove all the building materials themselves. So that's $125,000 estimated. Emergency protective measures, that was largely staff time. And, you know, there was, and you know, I'll just talk about this right now, but there was just so much staff time and folks that just stepped up on the holiday weekend, you know, Michael didn't talk about it very much, but on, New Year's Eve itself, he was here, Stan was here, I believe Chris Michaelis was here. I believe Adrian was there the first day too. Just trying, filling sandbags and doing everything they could, and we're quite successful in keeping the water out even that initial day. You can send some of the photos. I know it's hard to see in photos, but the water levels outside the building were definitely higher than they were inside. It could have been much worse if they hadn't put all that hard work in. And then, the next day they were back here, and it was squeegee central, just pushing massive amounts of water out the door all day long. Very, Sisyphusian, just kept going, and not a single complaint out of them. And this is part, a family trying to save their home. Everyone stepped up. I think, Michael called everyone and said, if you can, if you want to, please come, please help. And they really, really did. So, okay. Scrolling down. So what have we done so far? The, initial flood mitigation, during the flood, I, jumped on all of the county emergency managers coordination calls, and they immediately started talking about the next storms that were coming. So, it was cleanup and response from the very first storm, and then simultaneously they started planning for the next storm, the next biggest one, which was on that Wednesday, building that, levee and berm system with the pumps, all that staff time to monitor conditions. So Michael started, 24-hour shifts through a couple of the major storm events to make sure people were on site to be able to respond if floodwaters got as bad as they did the first day. And I'm glad you didn't have to fight the fight, but definitely there's no way the flood waters would have stood a chance on the subsequent storms there. Salvaging and moving materials. So that became kind of the initial focus, other than preventing future damage, was what can we save? So, folks, I don't have a count in front of me. Most of the staff was here actually on that Monday, which was still our holiday, gathering up files, boxing them up, saving them, saving computers. Our, IT consultant, Jackie from Stepford, was here, moving equipment, saving it, rewiring actually our SCADA system to keep our SCADA system, get that back online. We hired professional movers to, help us with all of this. And, it's been a lot of work. I mean, we are really disaggregated right now. You can see it's kind of musical chairs. We're all sitting in a different place than we normally are. I'm sitting in Tammy's spot. Tammy's at home. Monique's in Michael's spot today. Right now, Rena's in, Victor Fung's spot. And, we're all just kind of doubling up and tripling up and moving around. Rena does a lot of work out of the shop, which, it's the biggest office we got, right? Working in the shop. It's also the coldest, but, and then we have our customer service operations are all run out of Stepford, our IT consultants conference room. Basically, we're renting their conference room. They were very generous to, help us respond right away. And, as I kind of mentioned later, of course, that was one of our many highest priorities, of course, is keeping customer service going. And, I was going back through the timeline, and I can't believe it. We had on the 31st, the flood happened. Tuesday was our first day back of regular, office operations. And I think within half an hour of opening at 8 a.m., everything was online for customer service. There was updates on the website already. The phone lines were working. They're just redirected right to the conference room there at Stepford. So from, the customer's perspective, we really didn't miss a beat.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's a lot of work being disaggregated this way and everyone kind of displaced. So I think we're all kind of starting to feel it. And, we've made some comments. I can't believe it's been less than a month since it happened. Every week feels like a month, and every day feels like a week. But it's, it's a marathon and we're all kind of running it together. So I mentioned, a lot of work on IT to get us kind of up and running and kind of, band-aiding things so that we could keep going as we are. There's emergency restoration services and all of the work that they did and are continuing to do. All of those calls, multiple calls a day coordinating. At the initial event, the calls were every 2 hours. They continued, late into the night and over the weekends as the, storms just kept coming at us. We've been working with a real estate agent to find and evaluate office space to lease, and we actually are negotiating a lease right now, which is great. Looking at the timeline, that's also beyond amazing that we've found space, and we're close on that. Looking ahead further, how we're going to recover, we released a request for qualifications for architects so that we could start assessing what to do with the Dairy Lane Operations Center and have an architect on board to help us through that process. Our future activities, our goal is to completely reopen our doors to customer service. So once we get that new office space, there'll be some relatively minor improvements that will need to be made. And once those are made, we'll be able to then, advertise and share with everyone our new office location and let the public come see us there. We're working on, John Davidson's ordered window clings and banners. So there'll be some big window they call them, clings on the front 2 doors of the building that will direct customers to the website and the phone number. And once we are able to open to the public, the information on where that new office is will be added. Same with the big banner right on the fence out there. There's, we're releasing a customer bill insert this month with the same information. And, we're also trying to get internet service up and running at the Folger Drive facility. We expect that'll happen next week. And then that'll be in another, a place where we can do business out of. I mentioned the temporary office space, also office furniture. That's another thing we've been coordinating. And we have some furniture lined up and ready to order as soon as we have a place to put it. We've had relatively minimal loss of computer equipment, so that was really great. Just a few machines, but we'll have to replace that. What we did lose long term, something we've already been talking about for a while, but it's time to move away from hosting our own servers and moving it to a cloud-based system. So we're continuing to work with our IT consultants on the best way to do that. And just skimming the list here, some other things that priority, of course, personal health and safety, as Rena mentioned, the floodwaters, contained sewer, wastewater. So that's a big consideration and a big driver for a lot of the decisions we're making as well. We have some SCADA equipment that's going to need to be replaced. Unfortunately, just been installed at the San Juan regulator station just a few weeks prior, but that was destroyed in the flood there. And of course, as we replace everything, we're considering like, okay, if a flood happens again in the future, what can we do to mitigate damage? So I think they're already talking about ways to kind of change the configuration of that equipment there at the San Juan regulator to make it more resilient in the future. And so I think that I talked a bit about customer service. That's further summarized here. But I think that's kind of the primary kind of business operations things. The kind of larger looking forward item is what to do to fully restore operations at the Dairy Lane Center here. And so, as I mentioned, we're working to hire an architect who can help give us some guidance, but here are the conceptual options that we're thinking about and talking about and want to work with them. As far based on everything we know and we're thinking about and considering right now, it seems that the best path forward will be to go ahead and to move right into that Dairy Lane rehabilitation project that has already been included in the budget and the CIP plan for a while now, and it's helping us move forward on that. Also, as has been talked about and discussed for a while, but is working on rehabbing the Folger site and preparing that to be a better satellite site for field operations. We could, of course, take the Aqua JPIA insurance proceeds and repair the Dairy Lane building as was before the flood event. We could, if we looked at, the fact that this is in the floodplain, we could consider purchasing a different building entirely and selling this property, or, permanently lease another property as well, as our kind of primary site and operations, and then upgrade this site for field operations. One thing I forgot, I meant to mention and earlier is the Aqua JPIA insurance status, and I was hoping Monique, you could give a summary of where we are and the things we've heard from JPIA.
Sure, I'm happy to do so. I did speak with the Aqua JPIA representative today, and we do have a $5,000 deductible. We also were told that the overtime labor will be covered, and she's going to look into whether or not the temporary rental costs, depending on what the board and the district decides to do, whether or not the rental costs would be covered, which she thinks it will be, but only be covered for the period of time that it would initially take to restore the building so that we can move back into it. It won't be for the entire time if we did do the major remodel. But the estimates came from meeting with the adjuster, and some of those were just guesses on his part, estimates from his experience. And then some of it is from making a list of what our losses are and just coming up with estimates of what it would cost to replace them, which will probably be prorated to some amount based on the age of what was lost. So she'll continue to work with us and follow with us and the adjuster. And we're also waiting for RMC to come back and work with our adjuster on some more items to follow up on, just to continue through the shop.
Yeah, right now we're anticipating, them to come out and actually remove sheetrock in the shop area. The shop area also had sheetrock. It also was inundated with water. And so that's the next step in the process. And we've been working at clearing out our storage room, our parts room and stuff like that, get things out of the way so that when that work comes to fruition, it'll be a lot easier for RMC to come out there and get rid of sheetrock. I just wanted to say to the board that I was so proud of all of our employees stepping up and coming out that day. Here it was a holiday weekend, and it seemed like the last couple of years on New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, it's been rough for us. You remember last year we had that main water main break on Alameda de las Pulgas, and we didn't have the right kind of fitting because it was just a different size type of pipe that we normally have in our system. And here we are a year later. It wasn't a broken water main, but it was Mother Nature's water main opened up on us and just flooded us all out. But the employees here, as Michael was saying, and you hear him say that I preach this, that we're family and this was our home and it was being taken over by Mother Nature. And the folks all stepped up. People were working 24 hours a day to try and prevent damage to the building and to help, clean it out. It was a mess, and we were trying to find boxes to put files in and get the files boxed up and taking them up to Folger. We had so many files that we had to hire a moving contractor to kind of help us move it, because we also still had to take care of our daily business, right? I think we had a couple of small water emergencies that staff had to attend to, but again, I can't compliment, the staff and their efforts to try and keep things working here and make them normal. As Kat mentioned, there were a couple of nights in the middle of the week when we were anticipating some more storms that the guys said, hey, I'll stay around overnight, and make sure that if something were to happen, at least you got somebody here to try and combat the water, so 2 nights, we had 3 people spend the night out here just to make sure that if something else were to happen, we could at least make a good attempt to try and do something about it instead of just making even more of a mess. And, happening during the holiday season when people, wanting to spend time with family, these guys spent time with their other family, and I could be proud of everybody here at the district and coming out and doing what they could to help out this situation. And now, it has not been normal at all. I mean, that we've been able to maintain customer service since January 2nd. The customers really haven't missed a beat. Fortunately, we don't have a lot of people that come to our office doors that much anymore, but still we get questions that people call, and they've been able to call the 591 number and talk to somebody. And that's because, Stepford, our IT company, made a space for us. And with technology, we're able to use that. And we have not missed a beat. And now it's just been a matter of trying to get things organized in a fashion and stored out of the way. And if you come look at the shop's just filled with materials, office materials, and the Folger location, same thing. There's a lot of stored files and office materials over there that we've just gotten out of the building. It's just amazing how much you have inside your house when something like this happens, and you've got to clear it out so that eventually you can see what kind of repairs you need to make. But I just wanted to share that with the board. You would have been really proud to come out here. And I know that a few were able to come out. Board President Louis Villa was out a couple of times, and so was Board Member Wheeler. And I know Board Member Kathy Jordan, her husband has a business down the alley, so she was out here a couple of times. But I'm glad that, Member Schmidt, and I'm sure Matt Zuka, Board Member Zuka, was looking at the photos too, just to get a sense and a perspective of what we had to deal with those days in early 2023. They were not fun to deal with.
Can I say something, Rena? Sorry.
Sure.
I've heard you and Kat acknowledge and commend staff for doing what we tried to do. But I just have to say that, we're soldiers that are led by our management team, and management showed up as well. They don't live, some of them at times are not right here close to Belmont, but they showed up out of nowhere, and they were all here, all 4 of them, or 3 and a half plus whatever.
Retiree.
Yeah. They all showed up, and, as we were there trying to deal with it, there were, a couple comments like, well, what are we going to do? Where's management? And then all of a sudden, boom, management was there. And so it's a wonderful thing. We're a family that work together, and everybody really appreciated seeing that we all came together, and we're all still together dealing with this situation. So thank you for the comments, but I just had to throw out there that it's not just us. We're led by management. Management's great. So thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
And if I could just add too, that the good news is, if you want to call it good news, is it does appear that all of our damage will be covered by our insurance.
Well, now you tell us, Monique.
Well.
Oh, very good. All right, excellent. Yes, it is. It was a very unexpected way to start a new year. And when I came in, it didn't take that much to kind of imagine what was there the day before. I mean, sure, I came back a day late, but the effects and the evidence was there plain to see, So I could well imagine what was going on the night before. So yeah, it is. Water is a force, and when the force starts coming at you, sometimes, and I know it was said earlier, you just feel that you're losing the battle. However, when I saw the berms being put up and those all the preventive measures that were being taken for the next storm, which luckily it didn't happen as bad as it was anticipated, But it's just like anything said, just like the Romans used to say, you know, you arm yourself and you arm yourself and you arm yourself. So hopefully you don't fight. Okay, but you arm yourself because you don't know if you're going to fight or not, but you are prepared. So I applaud you all for that, management, staff, and the cooperation between everybody is absolutely commendable. I did go to other businesses, especially in San Carlos, and the reason I did that is because San Carlos made the news. You know, it was in the news media when El Camino flooded. You know, and the same thing, the same pictures are over there as well. You know, and I went there a couple of times to a couple of the businesses, and I went there again today, as a matter of fact, to see how they're doing. Some of the businesses have about, you know, a foot or 18 inches of their sheetrock removed. Some of the businesses are back, you know, they are in operation, including a couple of eating establishments, and I was surprised to see them back in operation, but they are. And it was something that it just overwhelmed everybody, it looks like, you know. And I also was very pleased to read the methodical way that you guys looked at this whole thing, especially, you know, the things, the possibilities of what could we do in the future and going forward. There was something that I wanted to share with you all that that I had with a conversation of a business owner. This guy has a furniture business on El Camino in San Carlos. And I was talking to him and I go like, so how did it go for you? He goes like, this is the third time in 15 years that this happened to me. And I go like, you're kidding me, right? He goes like, no, I'm serious. I said, so do you have flood insurance? He says, I'm in business. He says, when this happens, I bring my employees, I clean it up, and it's less expensive than the flood insurance. And that just blew me away. I had never heard that before. And I go like, and you've done the same thing 3 times in 15 years? He says, yep. About once every 5 years, these things happen. And I said, it all depends on how well, you know, this is El Camino I'm talking about. Okay, this is not in our area, we're lower. But he said that on El Camino, if they don't clean up, you know, the drain properly or the creek, he said it floods and I have to go through this. And he was wheeling away, you know, all kinds of furnitures and boxes and stuff like that. But because I was thinking, you know, we don't have flood insurance, right, Rena?
Well, I think that's a part of what we're dealing with Aqua JPA, right, Monique? You know, we're covered insurance wise.
But is it called flood insurance or is it just damage insurance, whatever?
It is not flood insurance.
It's
No,
not flood insurance.
it's
Okay.
property insurance. Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry.
because that with the flood insurance, that's something that I was not expecting this guy, and he's a businessman, so I'm assuming he knows what he's talking about. But anyway, aside from that, and I'll turn it over to the other directors too for any comments, but I'm extremely proud. When I was walking, first I walked the whole place with Kat, and then the next day I walked it with Rena, and we couldn't say enough to the way everybody responded and everybody just band together to save what we have, not only just the building alone, but to save our spirit, because you know you lose the home where you're at. I mean, it just deflates you, and instead of doing that, it just brought us all together, and we are stronger for it. So hopefully we'll get back to normal, hopefully the sooner rather than later. So I'm going to leave it at that for now. Any other comments from any other directors would appreciate it. Kathy, please go ahead.
Yes, thanks, Louis. I just wanted to echo the comments about commending the staff for being there on time. I will look back on my phone. So I took a video, as Rena said, we have a business down there. I took a video and I sent it to Rena at 10:14 a.m. and at 10:37, people were already on site trying to make sure that, what we could do to save the buildings, because it was already very flooded really early in the morning. So I do want to thank the staff for acting very quickly. I was texting Rena all day, essentially, going back and forth, and I saw the guys out there working. I didn't want to interrupt them as they were trying to keep the water out. So I just want to extend my appreciation for everything that you all do. I love it. Really warms my heart when I hear everyone talk about the family that we have here at Mid-Penn. And so I'm so pleased to be part of it. I do want to echo and just say thank you very much. One other comment I want to make in terms of that this happens all the time. So I spoke with several of the people that live in the mobile home park on Karen Road, and they essentially said it happens all the time. So I did reach out to, I know it's unincorporated Belmont, but I did reach out to the city, and I did reach out to the county and the supervisors. And, I said, I know it's a long-term fix. I know there's many agencies involved, Caltrans, county. I said, but we can't just continue to let this happen. So hopefully this last event will get things in motion, and maybe, not anytime in the near future, but, there's attention to it now. And so hopefully we'll get some fixes in the longer term. But thanks, Rena, for putting up with all my questions and comments. I'm so concerned it's still flooding. But I thank you and the staff for working so hard. And I know cleanup, I couldn't imagine the cleanup. We had to do cleanup at my husband's, well, I didn't do the cleanup at my husband's business. I just dropped stuff off for everyone, but it was a lot. It was overwhelming for everyone. And I'm very grateful for how quickly everyone responded. So thank you.
Thanks, Kathy.
Very good. Thank you, Director Jordan. And we'll go to Director Schmidt.
You'll probably just hear from all of us, but yeah, I echo the thank yous. I'll just add that I'm not surprised that everyone stepped up, both staff and management. So it's great, very impressive, and those pictures are quite shocking. And to Kathy's comments, my understanding is that mobile home park is still evacuated. So there's some serious issues there. I think they're talking about doing a major flood protection project in this area. It's going to cost quite a lot of money, but I think that's one of the things that are being proposed. I'm sure other folks know more about that. I had maybe two questions. One question is about the resolution. I reached out to Rena and Kat about that, but I don't know if we want to talk about that now or in a minute. The other question is about our March board meeting, which is supposed to be in person. Do we think we're going to be prepared to have a place to meet, basically?
I think so, Brian. I think we will have a place to meet. We're pretty close with a place to lease, and that place to lease, has a place inside a big open room that we can use for a temporary board for a public meeting place. So yes, we're thinking about that. That's one of the primary things on our mind, is getting ready for a potential March public meeting, open meeting in person.
Okay, and I don't know, I see Kirk wants to talk, so maybe I'll hold off on the resolution, but I have a question.
So yeah, that was a good thing to bring up, Director Schmidt. So before I turn it over to Kirk, Brenda, I think I asked you this before, but I know that we are allowed to meet virtually because of COVID. Do you know of any examples of any other agencies that asked if they could continue to meet virtually because of the damage or because of the storm?
Yeah, we were just kind of chatting about that. Julie, can you shed any light on this? Or I think you were kind of,
Yeah. So we have a bunch of agencies who could use the new state of emergency that's based on the floods to declare a local emergency and make findings under AB 361, just like you do every month for the COVID state of emergency.
Okay.
But everybody's still under the COVID state of emergency. So everyone I know is just relying on the COVID one. When that ends, if the state's flood state of emergency is still in effect, you could continue to meet virtually as long as that is still in effect and until it gets lifted. You'd have to adopt another resolution like you do for COVID, but it wouldn't be COVID, it would be flood related. And that you would be declaring because of the flood, you can't meet virtually, you know, for whatever reasons. And then when the state lifted that state of emergency, you could not rely on AB 361 anymore. You'd have to go back to in person. So it is an option as long as that state of emergency for the flooding is in effect.
Okay, very good. That's what I thought you were going to say from a legal standpoint. So the reason I'm mentioning this, Brenna, is because I do not want to put any more pressure on staff than you are already in. So if staff is going to start scrambling to do whatever possible because, oh my God, in March we have to meet in person, if we could lift that pressure, why not, you know, and push it back a month, you know, because of the flood thing. So we'll continue to talk about this. We still have another month to go.
Yeah.
But seriously, Rena, think about it, because I personally, I don't want to load you up with more than you have on your shoulders right now, you and staff and the rest of the district. So
Appreciate that.
Let's not, you know, bring that upon us if we can. I mean, this is on everybody understand this. This is not something which is we arbitrarily decided it's an emergency. This is huge, you know. So okay.
Well, let's see if what Kirk has to say, and then let's talk about the resolution,
Correct.
because maybe there's some things we can do with the wording in the resolution that might help out in that case.
Very good. Okay, Director Wheeler, please.
Okay, I wanted to say that I was there on Tuesday, the 2nd. Is that the 2nd? But 3rd. And everybody seemed to be doing what they should be doing. I didn't have any concerns about them not doing things that needed to get done at the time. One thing I have been impressed with is that because we're not in a leased space and we have JPIA supporting us, that we are in a much better position than if we were renting an office and depending on our landlord and their insurance company to make decisions and do things. I went through an experience with a nonprofit that got flooded due to a septic overflow into their office space, and it took 3 months to settle everything and get cleaned up, and even then it was still a problem, and some of it's still going on in terms of settling the disputes. So I commend staff for being there over the holiday weekend, and particularly management in terms of getting things done. My only comment when I was there was, well, we're going to have something interesting for our strategic planning session as it goes forward, because this is going to be an ongoing item that nobody had been thinking of. So, but I wanted to thank everybody.
Thanks, Kirk.
Excellent. Thank you, Director Wheeler. Also, Director Schmidt, you want to take it on again, the resolution? You had a question on that?
Well, let me provide a little bit of framework of the resolution, and then, you know, we can let Director Schmidt ask his question, because he chatted with us. So the purpose of this resolution is to provide the interim general manager with the authority to take care of business, so to speak, to keep, you know, customer service in line, to go out there and make expenditures that we might normally come to the board and you know, make a report and a request to do, because we have to respond to the need that the emergency caused on our behalf. And the basis of this resolution is similar to what the board saw a few years ago with the COVID, event, right? And actually, I pulled up the resolution back in April of 2020. The board adopted an emergency resolution or an emergency declaration, providing the general manager at that time with some authority to do certain things in order to keep the business operation going. So what we created here was a resolution that took that into consideration, using some of the ideals in the COVID resolution, but that applied to our situation here. And then we also borrowed from some of the other resolutions that the other cities and the county here had adopted as well that were related to the flood. So that's some context here. And so I'm not going to steal your thunder, Brian. I'll let you bring up your question, and then I think I have something that I can share with the board, and we can talk about that. And I think it'll be important to talk about what Julie said, because maybe there's some other language we may want to put in this resolution too that may help the board and staff go forward with regards to the open public meeting or the public meeting that the board conducts monthly.
And can I just cut that discussion short, because we haven't agendized
Oh, okay.
doing that. So, but we can absolutely do that in February as long
Okay.
as there's the state of emergency, but not this time, please.
Yeah. Okay.
So the discussion has to be around this resolution only, the way it is, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll turn it over to Director Schmidt, please.
Sure, thanks. And can you scroll down a little bit more? There we go. Be it further resolved, the first one. That one that's
Right in the middle.
dead center there. That was where I had some concerns that I expressed to Rena and Kat about the breadth and the open-ended nature of the resolution, no termination date. And I said I was particularly concerned about suspend procurement policies. And I asked Rena if there was any way to limit that they could still do what they needed to do. So it sounds like Rena might have some thoughts about that. Rena did email me and say, there is a heck of a lot of stuff we need to do, basically trying to get things going again. I'll add one other thought that I did not express previously, which is to the extent things are modified for procurement, mainly, I think. I'm not quite as concerned about the other stuff, but procurement, anything that goes outside of normal procedures, if that could be reported back to us, I think that could be very helpful. And again, putting a termination date on this, which we could then renew if it was needed. Those are the two things that help me out.
So this is what the board did back in April of 2023. Again, the COVID emergency, and I pulled up the resolution that the board adopted, but what the board added to the resolution was this last, be it further resolved, that it put some limits on the length of time that this emergency resolution would be in place. It was at that time, it was given a date that the middle of the year, right? July 20th, 2023, or when the county's health officer said, hey, we don't have to worry about the COVID emergency anymore. Well, all that stuff eventually went out the window, and the governor declared an emergency and just kind of took over the situation. But still, the board said, hey, can we talk about maybe framing this and putting a date on this? So when Director Schmidt, contacted us, I go, I know we did something like this, when we started talking about the COVID event. And so I found this resolution. And again, like I said, the board added this last, be it further resolved, to kind of put a frame on the time. So, we could put something in the this resolution that talks about there being a time element. Maybe it's got something to do with the county declaring emergency over, or maybe the governor declaring emergency over. And at that point in time, then we go back to, normal practices. But up until then, giving the interim general manager the ability to go out there. And again, when I'm talking about, our procurement policies, if under normal situations, if we were looking to go out and lease space, we would be talking to you people and it would be in the board agendized item and so on. And we don't have time. I've been working out in the shop on the old conference table because there's no room here for us to work. I've done some Zoom meetings inside my vehicle, so I have a quiet space to conduct business. So, we have to move on a place for us to conduct business, and that's going to happen before we can get it to the board. But we can also do what we did with the COVID situation, where on a monthly basis, you remember Tammy would come back with a report and say, these are the things that I did this past month that you need to be aware of related to that emergency. So yes, we can do that. And I would suggest that we could also add another, be it further resolved, that frames this emergency authority for a certain period of time, possibly related to a date or possibly related to the governor ending the emergency or maybe the county ending the emergency. That would be my suggestion.
And I should have included Julie when I was saying maybe we should modify this thing. So I'm sorry, Julie, I forgot about that.
Yeah, no worries at all. Happy to help. And this may or may not give you any comfort, but you have a board approved procurement policy that already says in emergencies, the general manager is authorized to basically do whatever needs to be done for procurements and report those back to the board.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. It sounds like the reporting maybe we can, I want to have in this that there's a reporting requirement. I don't want this resolution to suspend that existing resolution that says there's a reporting requirement. Maybe I don't know, Julie. I'm trying to think about how to do it on the fly here.
Yeah, so in the be it further resolved, the IGM or designee is authorized. Wait, where are we? Modify procedures, personnel rules, and procurement policies, taking all actions to recover, yada, 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 after winter storm event, comma, and will report all such actions to the board at every regular board meeting. Something like that. Would that work?
And if I can point out, there's similar language, actually, the last be it further resolved.
Yeah, there it is.
Report the actions.
General manager will report the actions and financial impacts of such actions to the board.
Oh.
Maybe we put that because it's just report to the board, but maybe we report it at the next meeting or something like that if the board feels that might be useful or help.
And see, I would even add at the end of that paragraph, in accordance with the district's procurement policy.
Well, there you go.
Because it's already there and it's already
there.
board approved. And so I would add that at the end of that paragraph.
That satisfies me. And again, this is just me speaking. I can't speak for the board. So if you do that and put a time frame, and I think it might be simpler just to put a time frame a couple months from now. I'd be happy. I'd leave it up to the rest of the board.
I think that's what we did before during COVID. I think we did 60 days and then you would ask me to come back and renew it. You remember that? I would always come back and go, let's push it out. Or maybe it was 90, but that was a longer term event, but 60 days seems reasonable.
Well, so initially this was the April 23rd board meeting. So July, that would be 90 days, and then again, the governor extended the emergency action, whatever, and it just kind of took over. And we've been in that situation since, right, for COVID until, hopefully it's supposed to end here in March or into February.
Yeah, 90 days is fine with me, and I will shut up and see what other directors think.
Okay, any other comments from any other director? So I have a question for Julie. So Julie, at this point, we have this in front of us. We are talking about amending this. So do we amend this and we vote on it, or we amend it and bring it back again?
No,
and if we do, what it's going to do to Rena, because Rena needs to do what he needs to do.
Yeah, you can, the motion could be that you are, calling it to a vote.
Approving it
as amended.
Okay.
We'll refer back to the procurement policy and we will put in the 90-day timeline, you know, unless it's, you know, extended by the, it'll basically mirror this last recital from the COVID one. And so then you adopt it as amended.
Okay, so at this point, then we need to have the verbiage of the amendment. The actual words of the what are we gonna add, right?
Yes.
Okay,
So
so
for the
wha-
final recital, it would look like this one from the COVID one. Be it
And the
further-
date would be April 27th, the 90 days, 2023.
Okay,
And it's not the San Mateo County Health Officer. It's either going to be the
Right.
county or the governor or,
I think we fall under the county, so it's probably going to be the San Mateo County Emergency Office or whatever they're called. Office of Emergency.
mhm.
okay,
So it would read, be it further resolved that this authority granted to the interim general manager shall expire on, what was that date, Tammy?
April
27th.
27th, 2023.
Or until the San Mateo County, what was it, emergency
Office of Emergency
emergency
Operations. Yeah, or services, yeah.
order
yes.
is lifted or substantively modified, whichever comes first, or unless this authority is extended by the board of directors.
April 27th is our day of our board meeting, I believe. So
that's why it's,
I
yeah,
guess
selected.
that's fine. That works.
okay, okay, so what about that line about the procurement?
So I think,
And so
That-
after board, you would say comma, in accordance with the
There
district
you go.
procurement policy.
There you go.
period.
Okay, all right. Because I'm going, wait a minute, you know, this is not what we're talking about. Okay, good. So how would it read starting from be it further resolved, the whole thing? So that we can hear it one more time so we can vote on it.
Be it further resolved that the interim general manager shall comply with all federal, state, and local laws when taking actions authorized by this resolution. And the interim general manager will report the actions and financial impacts of such actions to the board, comma, in accordance with the district's procurement policy, period. Oh, not period. Then you would have a semicolon and be it further resolved. And then it'll be the language that we read
Yeah.
just a minute ago.
right,
With the April 27th date.
correct,
Correct.
correct.
Okay, all right, good. So I'm gonna go back to the directors. Is there any other questions on this amendment? I see shaking of hands, shaking of heads. All right, good. I think we're there. I think we're there. Okay, very good. So I am going to ask for a motion.
I'll move the resolution 2023-02 as
Excellent.
amended.
So we have a motion by Director Schmidt. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second,
Okay. Second by Director Jordan. Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you. This was a very good discussion. So Monique, I'll turn it over back to you.
Director Schmidt,
Yes.
Director Jordan,
Yes.
Director Wheeler,
yes,
and President Vella.
Yes,
Okay, motion passes.
excellent. All right, congratulations, staff and legal. We appreciate that. Okay. So,
And good suggestions, board.
Yeah, yeah, thanks.
We
Brian.
only made it better. We only made
Yeah.
the reso better, so.
okay, excellent. Very, very good. And very, very good reporting on the flooding event and the work that was done down at all our properties, you know, so because all the properties were somehow involved in one way or another. Okay, so 8B, considering resolution 2023-3, authorizing authority for the establishment of an account and business relationship with Umpqua Bank, including participation in its purchasing card program. Who's going to take this?
So yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Monique to present to the board, but I just maybe a little bit of preface here. You know, we've had a banking relationship with Wells Fargo for many, many years now to you know, process payments for customers and so on. But it's just gotten to the point where we're just not getting, we feel, the customer service from them. So, and this has been something that's been brewing well before me. Tammy had been talking about this, and it just came to a head, and the head came here with the flooding event that you know, we hired some movers to help us move some files from here to the Folger site, and you know, they need to be paid, right? And so I gave them my district credit card, and it had reached its limit. My limit on my district credit card is $2,500. We've asked Wells Fargo a number of times to increase the limits of our district credit cards, and just have heard crickets from them. And so I ended up giving them my personal credit card to pay the bill, and the district reimbursed me. But the point being is that for us to conduct business, we have to be able to do business, and we're just not getting anything, any type of service from Wells Fargo. So Monique, now it's your turn to say why we want to go to Umpqua.
Okay, well, as Rena said, it really did come to light during the emergency. And, you know, I thought back to when we had the strategic plan and the board wanted to make sure that the general manager had the ability to take care of emergency matters and had the funds and the ability to function. So when this came up, this was actually in the works already, but it did kind of help us formulate a plan to explain to the board why we thought this was a good idea. So Tammy reached out to the CSDA, the finance manager, or I think he's the finance officer there, and asked him about who they would recommend. And so they recommended Umpqua. They do deal primarily with two banks. One is Five Star Bank, and this is Umpqua Bank, but they recommended this bank because of what they were able to negotiate or bargain for their members. So some of those additional benefits are highlighted here in this paragraph, and they are enhanced opportunities for temporary purchasing use. So when directors travel or staff travel who do not have credit cards that belong to the, you know, that are the district credit cards, we can push a credit out to them in their smartphone. And it's limited. It's limited to what amount we authorize, and it's also limited for the time period, but it does allow them to be able to travel and use the district's funds instead of their own. So we thought that was a good thing. And then we also like the fact that you get a rebate, a cash back, an annual cash back. I don't know if they call it a rebate, but it's their purchasing reward program, and they'll put that money back into our checking account, and then we can use it just as if it was regular or normal cash. They also provide, they're very responsive. I can tell you that. I've had so many emails giving me the documents, asking me for the list, asking me for the correct documents, providing us with the resolution, providing us with the information, telling us what training we can obtain in order to understand how to actually properly use the credit card, what kind of security provisions are in place, how they'll teach us how to use those, that kind of stuff, which was all really reassuring, because I'm sure that you know that Tammy and Rena take finances very seriously, as do the rest of us, but just speaking of them. So anyways, we felt like a line of credit for $150,000 would be a good way to start. We want to open a checking account as well and put $150,000 in that account. And that would allow us to pay this bill through that checking account. But most importantly, it will allow us to prepare to move from Wells Fargo to this account when the timing is right. And that'll probably be coming to the board to move everything in at the end, or as we approach the end of the fiscal year. So I would guess that we'll probably start wanting to transition and bring it to the board maybe in April, so that we have enough time to be able to transition the funds to that bank. So that'll be coming to you as part of the strategic objectives. And with that, if you have any questions.
Well, let's add to that. So, you know, the other thing that the staff would get here, the general manager and the administrative services manager and the assistant general manager would all get credit cards, you know, with limits that are usable, right? So I believe, Monique, remind me, it's $25,000 for the general manager, interim general manager, and then $20,000 a piece for the assistant general manager and then the administrative services manager.
Yes, those are the authorities. I think those are in the procurement policy.
Okay.
Yep, those are protocols. So the general managers is established and then the general manager establishes the others. So, and the good thing about that is when there's an emergency, it's a per transaction charge. So in an emergency, Ren is not going to have to use his personal credit card. I think I like, as your former general manager, that the fact that it's, you know, a bank that's supported by the CSDA and one that has been fully vetted. So we didn't have to go through all that motion. And then I echo Monique's comment about their level of responsiveness, because even I have reached out to Wells Fargo so many times, and it's just not sincere when they don't respond back, or they try to tell us to go to the local bank. And each and every one of us here tonight gets credit card offers personally every day of our lives, right? And it's silly that we can't just get this going as a business. So it's a very good program, and I trust that the information we've gleaned and reviewed is just going to only make it better. And as Monique said, help us to transition as we get ready and prepare to do that.
Okay, very good. Good report. Any questions from the board on this? Anything? All right, I have a couple of comments. First of all, usually when you have a credit card, there's an annual fee. This is not mentioned here. What? There's nothing mentioned here on that. Is there an annual fee?
There's no fees.
So,
No.
okay, so there's no.
No.
Okay, what is the interest rate on the unpaid balance?
So there's never going to be an unpaid balance, because
I hope not.
Our checking account, it's going to be set up. I'm sorry, Monique, I shouldn't.
No, go ahead. No, go
I
ahead.
said I wasn't going to speak, and here I am. It's going to automatically be drafted out of our account, the payment every month. We're going to get the
Okay.
bill, review it, and the payment gets drafted out, which is going to be far more efficient than the way we do it now. So, and then we're going to be responsible for just making sure that the
Maintaining.
same process we have put in place for receipts is there.
Very
Okay.
good. So basically, the way this is gonna happen is you're going to have to feed the account so that when the credit card needs to be paid, the credit cards go to the account and they're always gonna be fund there. Okay.
Yes. Yep.
Because I liked what Monique said when she said that both Rena and our management staff are pretty peculiar about money, Rena, Kat, and Tammy, because your board of directors are just as cutely interested in how every penny is spent. So because we all know this is not, I repeat, this is not our money, okay? We're playing with taxpayers' money and we have to be extremely, extremely cautious with that. Okay, so those are the two things that I didn't see in the report and I wasn't sure how that was going to work. Okay, so this credit card is going to be paid every month, no balances, there are no fees attached to it. Monique, when you call, do you always talk to the same person? Do you have like a contact person there?
Yes. Yes, her
Excellent.
name is Anastasia. I'm not sure what the last name is. You know, the other thing, what was, I just thought of some other benefit that comes with this card, but I lost it.
As you're thinking about it, because you'll remember as I'm rambling on here. The other thing that I noticed is that this bank is headquartered in somewhere up.
I think it says it in here.
It's in Roseville. It's up in the
Roseville.
Sacramento area.
Roseville.
Yeah.
Thank you, Roseville.
Mhm.
So there are no other branches anywhere in San Francisco, Oakland, San
Nope.
Jose.
No. And for the credit card, we don't need that. And we'll still have to talk more about a transitioning, because
Exactly, yeah.
any bank we transition to that's not located in our area, we're going to have a local bank for like petty cash, for cash deposits. And we're
Exactly.
thinking through that. Monique has already got the wheels turning about how we can make that work, like with a payroll account, etc. So there are different ways that we can do banks so that we're not just stuck with whatever we have to live with, right? Or whatever's here in the local area.
Thank you. Yeah, because that's something else that I wanted to bring up, because there's nobody local here, and credit card, no issue. The credit card could be on the East Coast, no problem at all. But other banking needs that we have, that's going to be a little bit challenging. So Monique, have you thought what you were going to say? All right,
No,
keep on thinking. Keep on thinking. I'm going to turn it over to Director Jordan. Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, I just maybe have a clarifying question. I would assume, much like the corporate card I have for my office, right? That you still, expense reports are still submitted so that there's a trail of how the expenditures are made.
Yes,
I mean, it would be the same as it is today, right? It's just it's
Right.
just being paid from a different bank.
we currently don't pay the bill until we have the receipts.
Yeah.
And believe me, we ask for the receipts and everyone's scrambling.
Not scrambling. We just provide the receipts.
No, they're scrambling to make sure that they get the receipts because nobody wants to have a late bill.
And the only time that we've had an issue is just right now. You should have seen us all today via email getting receipts, because the folder where we all put them, I don't even know where it is. So I'm sitting there today just knowing that electronically I'm submitting those so that they're part of that statement. And so that process works, in my opinion. Rena and I and the team, we've always been pretty organized about that process.
Because it's
So
not
I
our
will
money.
agree.
you have
I
to
will agree.
submit-
This month it
is it
was
like
a little scattered.
Paper receipts, because when I travel for business, I take pictures of all my receipts and then I just upload them.
Yeah, no, we do paper, and we are talking about, they did offer, as I recall, when we get trained, that there might be a way. Monique, I may be stretching it, but I remember, I think she told us that there could be a way that they could be accounted for, but we're just not there yet. We just need to get the credit cards, right? We just need to get the service. But yeah, we use paper right now. I'm electronic, like today, all mine was electronic, because you can see I'm at my house. So I just uploaded them all, used DocuSign, signed them, put the account number that they go to, and they're there. So
I feel like there's two answers for you, if you don't mind. Is one, we are hoping to move to an all electronic records. So in answer to your question, yeah, at some point we could do that, but we have some steps to go through before we can do that to be compliant with the legal statutes. And then secondly, I did remember what it was finally, and I actually still remember it. So it is, they will give us a list of all of the vendors that we can actually set up to pay automatically with our bills, which of course will be making sure that the bills match and that they're approved and all that stuff. But they will give us a list, and that will allow us to get some of the rewards, if you will. So, but also most importantly, it really reduces staff time, errors, loss of documents, all those good things that come with it.
That's very good. Yeah. Excellent. See, you did remember it.
I know. Thank goodness.
So I'm going to throw something else out there. Does this bank have any mechanism that when the balance is low, that it will send some kind of a warning? Because that balance is crucial, that it has to be kept to a certain level. Otherwise, bills are not going to get paid, and that's not good.
I would assume that they have alerts that you can set up.
I mean, we have those now at Wells Fargo. Many of us get them. Like
So
anytime a transfer is made, I still get it, because that's the way I set up my access when I set it up at Wells Fargo.
Okay,
Right.
but yeah, maybe you could ask, if it goes below a certain level, that it sends you an alert, to know that you need to transfer some money into that
Oh,
account.
yeah.
All right. Very good. What else? Anything else from anybody? Okay. Very good. So do we have a motion to approve a resolution 2023-3?
I'll
I'll
move that we
move
approve.
that we approve resolution 2023-03
Very
as
good.
stated.
Okay, thank you, Director Wheeler, and I guess Director Jordan.
I'll second.
Okay, because you all came almost at the same time. Anyways, very good. So we do have a motion by Director Wheeler and a second by Director Jordan for consideration of resolution 2023-3. Monique,
Okay, Director Wheeler,
Yes.
Director Jordan,
Yes.
Director Schmidt,
Yes.
and President Villa.
yes,
Okay,
all right,
we have a motion that passed.
excellent. All right, good job, staff. All right. Next, we go to item 8C, which is to consider scheduling a special board meeting on Thursday, March 9th. So this will be Rena.
Yeah, this is for the strategic plan. Of course, you know, the flood situation preempted our ability to have the strategic plan meeting on Thursday, the 12th of January. And so I contacted Julie Brown just to say, look, you know, we had a flood, we can't do this. And of course, she was very apologetic and I asked her, you know, when would be the next availability for her. And she said for her personally, the month of February was not going to work because of some personal things that she's got to deal with. But she did suggest that potentially she'd be ready. And so the first date that she gave me was Thursday, March 9th. It's also a second Thursday, just kind of like January 12th is going to be. So that's why I'm throwing it out there. And so I'm just asking the board if that's a date that fits on your calendar so we can lock that in. If not, then let's talk about a date that will work for the board so that I can propose that to Julie Brown.
Okay, before we start looking at our calendars, to you, Renee, seriously, is this date good for the staff? Are you going to be ready for this, or you're going to have to push yourself again?
Well,
I was, to be honest with you, I was surprised to see March 9th. When I read the previous report, I had discussions with you and I go like, why is he doing this? You know, I mean, so
you're right. You know, we've got a lot on our plates.
yeah, exactly.
And if the board wants to indulge us and give us time, and maybe we do it sometime right after the new fiscal year or something like that, maybe that might work better. You know, because we are really busy right now.
Yeah.
We are close, but you know, we're not out of the woods, and there's still a lot of logistics that's going to have to take place in order to get an office set up, and then maybe potentially prepare for open sessions again.
Yeah, because I was thinking, you know, at least at minimum, you know, if you know, if we're thinking about moving to a new office and a new environment and all of that, and we don't know, at least have another month, April. But you know, I'm only one, so I'll leave it up to the other directors. How do you guys feel about this? Director Jordan, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm cognizant of the amount of work that has gone in the last couple of weeks with the flood. So I'm okay pushing it out until a time where staff can kind of catch a breather.
Okay. Anybody else? Director Schmidt, please.
I'd leave it to staff. If they think they can do this reasonably well, then fine, let's do it. If it's too difficult, then I'm fine with moving it out.
Very good. Thank you. Director Wheeler.
Yeah, I'd go along with what Brian has suggested. If staff feels that they can do it, then March would work better, because otherwise we're going to get bogged down with the budgeting portion of things. My personal feeling is that the biggest part of the special meeting is actually having the meeting and actually thinking about all these things and criticizing the paragraph that we're going to talk about, rather than actually producing a lot of documentation. So I'd rather see us do it early if we can, but I don't want to put a whole lot of pressure on staff.
Okay, very good. Director Jordan.
Yes, so I think one of the other things we talked about is when we were doing this strategic plan session, we were going to do it in person. So I just want to make sure that we'll be prepared to
Correct.
do it in person, because I think it is a meeting where it's better to hash things out and look at the plan when we can actually all be in person and not on Zoom.
Agreed. Yep, that's a good point. Good point. And
I'll be
Wheeler?
honest with you. I'll be
Mhm.
honest with the board that,
Mhm.
we had gotten together before the floods and actually, worked up the draft strategic plan. I mean, Tammy and Monique and Kat and I got together and actually Kat took the lead and prepared the document. So from that standpoint, we are ready, but whether or not we're going to have a place, we think we are, but we don't have anything inked to say that we have a place to move into. Let's just do this. Let's do this. Let's see if the March 9th date works for the board. And if so, we'll lock that in with Julie Brown. And then the question will be, whether or not we can maintain that and have it an open public meeting. And the worst case would be possibly that it would be a Zoom meeting. But I think that we could probably say that we will be in a location if all things fall into place. And it looks like they're falling into place, but we don't have a lease agreement inked at this point in time.
Why don't you put that alternative date of April 13th out there, Rena? That way it's going to be one or the other. You know what I mean?
Thank
I'll do
you.
that.
And you'll know.
I was
You'll
going to
know.
suggest that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's exactly what I was
kind
going
of
to say.
know. I think the biggest issue is making sure we have furniture so we can all sit down and eat something,
Yeah.
because that's what we're looking forward to, right? Breaking bread together, because we haven't done that in years for a strategic plan session. So
We can sit on the floor. It's all right.
I guess kumbaya. That's right.
I think at this point, Kat has found somebody who can provide us furniture pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's all
So does March 9th or April 13th work for the board?
Okay, no, I know March 9th works for me. I haven't looked at the 13th, but I will know.
And that way, Rena, you can get with Julie, because she may
Yep.
say that April date's better for her due to
Right.
her personal circumstances.
Yeah.
Okay, as far as I'm concerned, this is just me speaking. Both days are still open right
Okay.
now.
All right.
So I'm going to block both of them, the evenings of both of them, and I'm going to keep them blocked.
Okay.
Okay, so then Rena, it's going to be your decision when you're going to be ready and if you're going to be ready. But if you need another month, you got it right now.
Okay.
Everybody else, what do you guys think? Good.
Both of those
Okay.
dates work for me.
Excellent. All right. Director Jordan is thumbs up.
Yes. Yep.
And good. And Director Schmidt, are you good?
I'll reach out to Director Zook and find out his availability for those 2 dates.
Yep.
And then I'll
Alright.
also contact Julie Brown and let her know, ask her.
Please. Okay, very good.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on to the next item, which is the BOSCA update. All right, very good. So the meeting for BOSCA was on January 19, the last meeting that we had. And we had a bunch of new directors that came in, I guess, following the elections and reshuffling of councils and other board members. So we have about 6 or 7 new directors. At the meeting at BOSCA, we elected a new chair and vice chair who actually were the same chair and vice chair. The chair is Gustav Larson and the vice chair is Tom Chambers. And we elected them again for another term, for another year. Then on the consent calendar, we approved the minutes as usual. We received the budget status report, investment report. And then Steve Ritchie gave us his report, the assistant general manager. I'm not going to go into details. I'm just going to highlight things because I know Rena has a full report on that. So the total system storage now, and this is up as of January, the beginning of January, was about 91.7% of maximum system storage. So we're basically at max, and hopefully the wet months are not totally over yet. So we don't do like last year. We have a bunch of rain in November and the beginning of December, and then no rain at all. So, and the upcountry precipitation was about 34.74 as of January 15th. So in all, you know, both the Bay Area, the up on the hills and the mountains and all that, it's all above normal for this time of year. That was it. And the board received a special report from Tom Francis about water loss management program. And I was going to ask Rena, maybe you can talk about this later on. If I know we have a water loss detection, leak detection, and they were talking about that. And it's apparently many agencies and many water purveyors do not have like leak detection system or water loss prevention programs. So this program that Bauska is working on is basically to try to come up with a figure as to how much water is being lost in an average year. And it's quite a bit. Okay, that was that. And then we talked a lot about the work plan, the budget planning sessions for 2023, 2024. Those are basically the highlights of what happened at the meeting. And we did have, as part of the Bay Delta Plan update, the State Water Resource Control Board held a workshop, and the state board provided details on upcoming actions and an aggressive schedule to implement the plan that identifies the winter and spring final draft, the board workshops, and the Bauska remains also engaged with San Francisco PUC and others in support of the voluntary agreement for the Tuolumne River as an alternative to the adopted plan. So, and then obviously we had some speakers who, especially now with this rain, they continue to harp against the voluntary agreement because obviously they are into a releasing of more water into the river. And now with this rain, it's just like, see, what did we tell you? So it's kind of interesting to hear the dynamics there. So Rena, I don't know, you wanna segue to that?
Well, let's just talk about the drought report and see where we're at. You know, what a difference a few atmospheric rain events make, right? So, you know, here's a look at the California drought map on January 3rd, just right after, you know, the major rain events here. And this doesn't really take into account those rain events yet. It just was probably put together right before the major events took place. But you can see a lot of the exceptional drought area just disappeared. Whereas previously, you know, even maybe a week or so before, or definitely a year ago, there was a good part of the state of California that was still considered to be in an exceptional drought stage compared to a year ago. Again, just showing that yet there's still some exceptional drought on the very top of the state. And then this is a week later, right? Now we'd seen all the atmospheric rivers, you know, everybody's drowning. Our office has been flooded. And even the extreme drought areas have pretty much disappeared in California. Now we're just talking about severe drought for the most part, you know, and moderate drought. I was looking at a NASA satellite image of the western United States, and it was looking at soil moisture, and it really caught my attention. You could see how California was hit. So they had an image just before the atmospheric rivers hit, and they just showed these colors like this, which was an indication that the soil was dry. And then after the atmospheric rivers hit, the state of California now was all blue indicating that the soil moisture was in a lot better shape than it had been in the past. What was interesting as you went further east in the United States, those orange and red colors didn't change. So California got dumped on, but and parts of Nevada did, but other parts of the Western United States did not fare quite as well. The reservoir conditions, here's where our water bank stored. This is what it looked like on January 5th, 2023. And again, the biggest ones are the storage up at Shasta and Oroville. Up on the top here, the federal reservoir and the state reservoir, inching back up. I imagine next time we take a look at this next month, we're going to see them probably getting close to the historical average, that green bar that's up there for this time of the year, whereas the last few years, they've all been just below that green bar, and you still see quite a bit of that. Our water bank, the Don Pedro, looks actually really good. And if you remember last month, I'd mentioned that Steve Ritchie said that they had gotten a lot of water, and you're going to see that, and I think the report that I saw, Lewis, from the board meeting that you guys had at Bosca, Steve Ritchie had reported that the Don Pedro, the water bank, was at 100% of capacity. And I think it's like 570,000 acre feet of water stored there for the regional water system. So these rain events that we've had have had a major impact to the regional watershed and the runoff into the Don Pedro Reservoir. Again, this is looking at last year, and you can see that the levels were just a lot lower. I went and drilled down a little bit deeper in some of these reservoirs, just to kind of show, and I hope you folks, just kind of enjoyed seeing these, because this is the Lake Shasta Reservoir, and you can see historically how it's looked, and you can see where it's currently at now. The blue line in there, the bright blue line, it's actually ahead of some of the major water years for the Shasta water system. At this point in time, it's actually ahead of what which is 1977, 78, when they had a substantial, or actually, I guess 1977, 78. It's ahead of that. Was a drought year, but it's ahead of that, and definitely ahead of the most recent years. And the same thing with Lake Oroville. You can see that it's well ahead of even the 30-year historical average for the reservoir storage. So just a lot of water coming in all over with these atmospheric rivers. And then the Don Pedro, and you can see that it's at almost 1.5 million acre feet, well above, above where it typically is this time of the year, and above the historical, numbers for Don Pedro. And even just last year, you can see how it compares to that black line, which was last year. So just a lot of water and impacting. I saw another report today that showed the State Department of Water Resources has determined already that they have over 1 million, I want to say it was 1.25 million acre feet of water that they're going to make available to contractors. Last year, they waited until April, which is the day they typically let everybody know how much water is going to be available in the system, to tell them that there's going to be no water. This year, they're already telling people that they have at least 1.25 million acre feet that they can release out to state water contractors. And this is just a precipitation forecast for earlier in January. So you can see between the 3rd and the 11th, the upper chart, Northern California is going to really wall up by the rain events. And yeah, we did see that. And then last week, between the 11th and the 19th, not quite as bad. Didn't get hit quite as hard. But we're hearing that February could be another wet month. And just a head-catchy precipitation. You can see that the rain totals that they've received up there have almost caught up with 1983, which is, I think they've said their wettest year on record. That's why they plot this year, and it's not quite there, but getting there. Definitely above the 30-year median, and above, of course, the dry years of 1977 and then last year. Precipitation, as Lewis said, they've already got more water in these last couple of months than they would normally see. And just look at December. It's literally 3 times what a normal December looks like for precipitation up in the up country. Same thing with the Bay Area. December was a very wet month. Not showing too much in January, but that's early in January. So it'll be interesting to see how January plots out when we see that at the beginning of February at the Bosca meeting from Mr. Ritchie. And then last year, I pulled this information up, and I pulled it up again this year because at the same time, just to show you what the rain totals look like throughout the state. This is prepared by the Golden Gate weather folks. I just thought it was real interesting. And what I'm showing here is rainfalls between July 2022 and January 1st, 2023, right before the atmospheric events. And then last year at that same point in time, July 1, 2021 to January 1, 2022. And the amount of rains don't look too different, right? It'll be interesting to see how that changed because of all the rain we got during the month of January. So hopefully they'll have some information posted. I'll update this chart. We can see how much rain we got last month or in January and how that compared when you compare the two periods of time together. The regional water system storage, on looking at it early January 2023 and comparing that with January 3rd, 2022, so a year apart. So as Lewis mentioned here, it's a little bit lower than what Mr. Ritchie saw. And I think what Lewis reported on was actually more current information that took into account the rain events that took place in early January. This information was posted or shared with us right in the early part of the month. And I suspect it really was through the end of December, not through January, but still, even so, the upper system, the Tuolumne system, was at 77% of capacity, the local at 93%, and the regional water system at 80% or 79%. And what I show here is a water bank in early January 2023. It had 413,000 acre feet. A year ago, it had 348,000 acre feet. And it was interesting, the water bank at December 5th, 2022, the previous month, it was at 253,000. So in a 1 month period of time, the water bank received about 180,000 acre feet of water out of the Hetch Hetchy watershed. That's a lot of water. That's a lot of water. And again, I think what Mr. Ritchie shared with the Bosca folks the other day was that the water bank is full. At this point in time, it's full, which is great news for all of us. The total regional water system deliveries is just normal for this time of year. It's pretty low. It's actually even lower than it was in 2015, a drought year at the end of calendar year 2022. Not unusual there. And how do we look? You can see our last number, that green line with the blue dot is December. Our residential per capita was 48.3 gallons per day. But again, most people aren't watering outside. That's all internal use, so it's not unusual. But actually, the December use was a little bit higher than the previous year, 2021 in December. But you can see that our overall use was actually much lower than many years other than the 2015 calendar year, which we all remember that being a drought year. And our water customers did a great job at conserving water to help the entire regional water system. And then this is the cumulative total of water. If you remember just mentioning that the SFPUC set water budget targets for all their customers, voluntary targets. There wasn't anything formal that we had to achieve, but they set a target for us of about 1.15 million units of water. And we actually came in lower than that based on their meter reads that we took at the SFPUC meters. We came in at 1.38 million units of water. Compare that with our 5-year historical average of 1.232. So again, the messaging that we've made to our customers about trying to conserve water, I think is it made an impact. And again, I just think the people up here in the Bay Area understand that. They seem to understand the water where other parts of the state, and I'm just thinking of the community I live, we don't understand. We don't get it quite yet. So congratulations. And this last slide is just a snowpack. And I'm curious to see what the snowpack is going to look next month when Mr. Ritchie shares with us. I suspect it's going to go up even higher, and it's going to be up over here someplace, ahead of the 2017, which was a really heavy snow year, and way ahead of, for at least a period of time for the 30-year average. And then we'll just see if it continues to climb like it did in 2017, or if it hopefully doesn't flatten out like it did last year. But so far, the snowpack's looking really good. And actually, Jubin shared a picture with me of he and his son had gone to the Tahoe region to do some skiing. And it was Highway 50, Jubin. You guys are driving back, and the vehicles are going through literally looks like a white tunnel. The walls of snow are about 12 to 15 foot tall on either side of Highway 50. It's just amazing how much snow is up there right now. So that's the drought report. Ernie. Is there anything that caught any board members' attention that you want to talk about?
The one thing I wanted to add is that the snow apparently looks like it has a lot of water in it too.
That's good too.
So,
That's good
which
to hear.
is good. Yeah.
Yeah. Good water content.
Mhm. Okay. Any comments or questions? Director Schmidt, please.
Thanks, Rena. Very comprehensive as always and looking good so far. I did want to ask about water conservation. And I think there's been discussions with the school district about doing some landscape switch out. Is there any updates on that?
I don't have any updates, but we will bring something to you next month.
Okay,
We'll bring something to the board next month.
sounds good. Thank you.
Any other comments for about the reports that we just heard? None? Okay, we'll move on to reports, management reports.
Yeah,
Okay, it looks like you're still on.
Yep. So just a reminder that tomorrow's luncheon for Ron Leitner has been postponed for the time being. We'll reschedule that and let everybody know so that if you're available, we'll do that. Again, we had the March 9th, second Thursday for the tentative strategic plan. We're also going to add to it then the potential for an April 13th, and we'll let the board know at the next meeting, when we can do the strategic plan session so that we get ahead of it and not let it linger as we get into the budget cycle for operations. I do want to point out that on Friday, March 24th, okay, it's the day after the March board meeting, we want to have an employee appreciation dinner at 6:30 p.m. at the Iron Gate restaurant. And you probably have received an email. If not, we will share an email with you just as a reminder. And we're also going to want to get a head count and share with you what the meal options are. Tammy, I know you've been working with Monique. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
I did a save the date, so everybody will have that date, and I'll get all the menu options out. I'm assisting Monique with a couple of these things since we had so many hit us right at the end of the year. And I did want to mention Jeanette Calabolis's. She's having a combination service anniversary and retirement luncheon at the same time, because she celebrates her 15th year with the district in April into March, and so she's retiring April 1st. So we're combining her luncheon into one, and I'll get that information out soon too. Thank you, Kathy, for sending your reservation in for Ron's luncheon. When we reschedule it, it's going to be the same exact menu. So I'm keeping, and I've got everybody's except for Brian, Kirk, and Lewis. You got an email with menu option choices. If you want to go ahead and tell me what you want, when I reschedule it, we're keeping all of that the same. Okay. Dimitri, who owns the Iron Gate, he's just been a pleasure to work with, and we're just going to keep everything simple and easy. So you can go ahead and just let me know what that is, and we'll have that head count ready. Thank you, Rena.
Thanks, Tammy. On the operations side, just kind of point out the underground service alerts is kind of right here. I don't think I've seen such a low count or request for underground service alerts. 199 during the month of December, which is basically telling me that things have wound down for the year. There's typically not a lot of construction in Belmont. They don't allow construction during the winter months, but we still, the last few years, had just been busy regardless of what time of year it was. But I was surprised.
Don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
Yeah, it was all before the flood. We didn't get to any hydrant maintenance in December, and the same thing with any valve maintenance. We were busy doing other things. And again, this is all prior to the flood. I do want to point out here in the system repairs that we had a water leak at the Terra Linda School. And I know, Lewis, you were aware of it, and it was a large water loss. I mean, we believe it was greater than a 250,000 gallons of water. And what was unusual about this one is the water main was located within a storm drainage basin in an easement we have there. And so when the water line ruptured and was leaking the water, it was going directly into the stormwater system. And so Michael was, monitoring SCADA, and he just noticed that we had a low tank level alarm, and I want to say it was the X-born tanks. And so it was on a Sunday, and he and Stan went out to looking for it. And of course, typically when we hear about water leaks, we're looking for water coming out in the street someplace. So they were driving all over the Zone 2 area looking for a water leak and did not see any surface water leaks of any kind. So then they said, okay, well, let's just start looking in creeks. If it's not coming out there, it's got to be going someplace. And sure enough, they found some water. That was a heavy stream in a creek, and they just kind of started following the creek upstream and talked to a couple of city employees who were familiar with the stormwater system, and started going back up to the Carlmont Shopping Center and still saw water coming into a creek. So that's when they broke off, and one went to the Terra Linda School and the other one went to the Carlmont High School. And we found the water going into a storm drainage basin. So it was really a strange situation for us, but the school was very cooperative. I mean, we even asked them to cancel the school because in order for us to repair the leak, we were going to have to shut the water off on this line, and it was going to turn the water off to the school. They needed a few hours to notify parents. And Lewis, you remember you drove over there when the school was being let out. It was a zoo. Kat and I went over there as well. We had a hard time getting over there, but it was interesting. Kat and I sat in traffic for about 15-20 minutes trying to get to the site. And I just decided, hey, let's go around the block and try it again. By the time we went around the block, 5-10 minutes later, the traffic was all gone. And we were able to get out to the job site and see our staff out there trying to deal with the water leak situation. So it was chaotic for a little bit, but it kind of cleared up. And again, like I said, the school staff was very helpful and understanding, and then also appreciative of the work that staff did. So we were able to go in there and effect the repairs, and the school was back in business the next day, and just like they hadn't missed a beat, other than just having something unusual happen to them. That we didn't have any idea was taking place.
I don't think the kids complained.
Yeah, probably not. Kat and I went to pick up some pizza for the guys because they'd been working on it nonstop since early in the morning. We went to the Carlmont Shopping Center, and we ran into a bunch of high school kids because the high school had to get let out as well. It affected the water supply to the high school. And so that the kids are out there, talking and having pizza and soda while we're waiting for our order. And I think that's all I wanted to point out. I don't know if the board members saw anything that caught their attention that you want to have a question on in either the internal general manager report or the operations report.
Okay, any questions from anyone? The one thing that I wanted you to correct is before I turn it over to Director Wheeler, in February, there will not be a BOSCA update.
Okay.
Because there's no meeting February. Okay, Director Wheeler.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Rena if you could add to the interim general manager's report the status of the finance committee meetings.
Okay.
As they come up. Just because since I'm no longer on the agenda committee or the agenda meeting early in the month, it's not always clear when we're going to have a finance committee meeting type of thing.
Okay, I appreciate that. Yeah, I need to do that. So thanks for the reminder.
Good, thank you.
Good point. Okay, anybody else? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the assistant general manager, Kat.
All right. So the first 4 bullet points in my report are all related to the flood and recovery efforts. So if anyone has any questions related to that, let me know. Otherwise, I won't continue on with that. But even with everything that's going on, believe it or not, we did do some regular business, including some kind of new and really exciting things. So back in, I believe it was December, we were approached by the San Mateo County Office of Education, actually approached Jeanette, who's retiring, because they have this Green Career Awareness Program. They received a big grant a few years ago, and so they were able to develop a bunch of like 10 lesson modules in a bunch of different areas for middle school students. And if you click that URL there, it actually you can look at the materials associated with each module, all the lesson plans and activities and all of that to get a feel for what they've done. So, you know, they had this grant, this program. It's, you know, received a lot of, you know, accolades and been adopted actually by other counties other than San Mateo County. And so they applied for a new grant to expand this program further to develop modules for clean water, clean power, and sustainable foods. So they had heard about the district, and they'd heard about, you know, through Jeanette and Tammy's reputation, that we might be able to contribute to this. And so they reached out to us, and, you know, now it's on our new water resources coordinator, Brandon Spears, and myself to carry the torch. But we have agreed to be a part of this to help them develop the clean water module. The other partners on that module are the Marine Science Institute and Save the Bay. So it's, you know, kind of looking at water from a number of different aspects. And so our role will be as the subject matter experts to help them, you know, brainstorm what topics to look at and to, you know, review the materials, and even if it's not our area, to reach out to, you know, those in our networking community who can also, you know, help review and make sure that, you know, these are good materials for the schools to use. And then, you know, the county actual educators will develop the curriculum. And because we're, you know, a named partner and we're going through this, actually our logo will be included on these materials. So you'll see middle school students across the county will start getting exposure to Mid-Peninsula Water District. There'll be some opportunity for us to help be involved in the training of the teachers. They'll hold workshops to, you know, help train the teachers on these. And so, you know, I think it's really just exciting that kids will start getting more exposure and really see water as more of a career path than maybe they would have, you know, necessarily otherwise been exposed to, and exciting, and framing it into the, you know, the green careers framework of, you know, and I guess we hear a lot about that generation, what they want to do with their careers is help, which, you know, is wonderful, and that's a big focus. And so please, you know, let's share why this career pathway is a great way to help. And so as we were having these conversations with Dr. Jerome Marcus from the Office of Education, he's their career technical education and STEM coordinator. So he's leading this program, but he's also working on developing like what they call pre-apprenticeship programs, working to expose high school students also to trades and apprenticeships. So separately, Michael Anderson and I are talking to him about ways we can, you know, help contribute and help get, you know, the water industry out there and make, you know, kids who wouldn't necessarily take the college path, so they know that this is a great option for them and what that could look like. So as that evolves, I'll share with you how that goes. So strategic planning, as Rena mentioned, we did finish the draft strategic plan in December. We all got together and I, you know, drafted what we had worked on together. We'll probably, you know, want to maybe reprioritize some things and work into the flood response as a result, but the majority of the work is done. So whenever we are able to meet, it's at least that part, that heavy lift is over. Team building, we will be having a disc training actually next Tuesday. It's been planned for a while, and of course we considered canceling it, but you know, the goal of this training is to really figure out how we all work best together, where our strengths and weaknesses and our relationships are, and how, you know, this looks like with all the new employees, including myself, involved.
Yeah.
And given the challenges we face and the uncertainty and everything that we're facing, it seemed almost, you know, more important that we do it now than even before we were considering it. So we're still doing that. We're going to have to host it at an offsite venue, so we have a hotel meeting room reserved for that. Key external relationships, we did have a couple of meetings and lunches scheduled, including one with Julie, but those we did cancel. I was able to have a really great dinner with Jubin and Tammy and Rena. I mentioned, you know, the Office of Education programs that we're working on building. And then, silver lining of the whole emergency response, I've been able to work with a number of, fire and police entities in the county and get familiar with them more. So that's been great. So, but if anyone has any questions on the stuff I've been doing, happy to share.
Any comments, questions, anybody on these reports? I have a quick comment, Kat. On that guy, Dr. Durham Marcus,
Mhm.
he's working on, is it like the workforce of the future? Is that, okay, all right. So basically, he's working on what skill sets are gonna be needed as the workforce and the work needs develop and change in the near future, right? Or distant
Yeah.
future.
Yeah. I mean, as there used to be a lot more focus on, what they would call vocational training. And that, the kind of educational trends shifted away from that and everyone focused on college, only college. So part of what he's doing is career and technical education encompasses that, as well as, a little bit more guided kind of college training as well. But focusing on and kind of bringing that back, but, with the newest, focuses and all the learning they have on, educational approaches. So
Excellent. Yeah. Extremely interesting. Yeah. Because obviously college is not for everyone, but the work out there is not only for college graduates either.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other work out there, and unfortunately some of the trades are becoming very, very hard to come by, which is sad, because they are needed for everybody to live through life.
Yeah,
So,
and sorry, as we get into the strategic plan, when we have those discussions, you'll see that that's really kind of a big focus, and it's a real challenge that we've been having already. We're not alone. Every other district is having a similar challenge. So
exactly, to
we're
recruit. Yeah,
right there.
yeah. Perfect. All right, excellent. Any comments from anybody else? All right, very good. Thank you, Kat. This is very good. And we'll move on to the next report, which would be Monique.
Thank you. I really don't have a lot to add. I think we've already talked about all of this good stuff. Unless somebody has questions.
You're not forgetting anything, right?
I'll tell you tomorrow.
Getting late.
That's good. That's cool. All right, very good. Thank you. She is also reminding us when our prevention education classes are due too. So I actually went for my calendar and I marked my calendar that I need to attend the certain classes, but it's not going to be for a few more months anyway. So, okay, any questions for the administrative services report? Anyone? Very good. All right, we'll move on to the district engineer, Jubin.
Yep, nothing to really add to the report. Projects are moving forward and we're trying to spend money. So if there's any questions to answer, I can certainly answer.
Spend it wisely, please, everybody. Any questions or comments for Jubin? Yeah, we're pretty familiar with these projects already. And so they're moving on all on time, Jubin, on budget so far?
Well, they're not in construction yet. So
No,
once they
but
start construction,
as far as the design and all of that, that's what I'm talking about.
for the most part, yeah. Old County Road is a little bit out of whack, but yep, on schedule, but not budget.
Yeah, that was always going to be an anomaly. We knew that going in.
Very complicated.
Yeah, unfortunately. Okay, anything else for Jubin? Nothing? Okay, good. We'll move on. To communications.
Oh, we've got the finance report.
The finance report.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Very good.
Okay.
Elaine.
Yes, if it's okay with the board, if it's meets with your approval, because there's November and December, I prefer just to go to December because there's nothing in November that it doesn't affect December also. And rather than go through every point again, obviously if there's questions, I'll try and answer them. But I just want to hit some key things that might stick out in looking at the reports. In December, the 1st December, the bond payment is made, which has the principal portion. There's an interest payment on December 1st and June 1st of every year. So because it's a once a year event, it skews the numbers high in December, but it's the only one all year, and that high percentage will drop drop in
As it
terms
must
of
go out.
being apparently over budget until the end of the year. It's not going to be in a deficit at the end of the year, but that also skews the debt service ratio lower as far as that goes. So it's nothing to be a concerned about those two items. At this point, we're still running a very good surplus from operations, a little over 2.3 million. As noted, it's a little less than November's, but you also had a $405,000 principal payment in there. So to go down 80,000 when you're paying out a one-time in the year item of 400,000, it's not a negative thing. The water commodity charges, I mentioned it in the November report, and it's there in December. It's looking to be, I in working on the mid-year budget, which I got right onto after doing these reports. I'm thinking right now it's going to be 1.2 million under budget. So a deficit of 1.2 million in the water commodity charges. Now, offsetting that, the less water you sell, the less water you pay for. And because there's basically about a 50% correlation in that, half of the water revenue that doesn't come in, you have a savings in water purchases. I do want to, so of that, projected $1.2 million deficit, I didn't make an error on the second page under purchase water. I put at that point $1,580,000 surplus. I neglected in computing that amount to include all of the purchase water costs. There's a water charges, just the straight water purchases. And then there's debt service surcharge, which is well over 400,000 for the year. And then the fees that were charged for the water. And I only took the water sales in that. So that actually, rather than almost 1.6 million, is I'm looking at about an $850,000 surplus there, which greatly reduces the $1.2 million deficit. And then personnel costs are running quite a bit under budget. And at this point, those two items appear to easily offset the deficit, those two surpluses on expenses. So if you net those, the large part of the surplus is from the water system capacity charges, which are almost 1.5 million over budget. And that's something you never know how those are going to come in. So we don't budget hardly anything, because some years it has been hardly anything. And you don't want to budget 1.5 million and have 40,000, which I know there was one year, I looked at that, that's all it was. So, that obviously is a great thing to be getting that much more than budget. A couple other areas are coming in real strong. Interest revenue is,
Wow.
by the end of the year, I'm looking at probably about 400,000 over budget on the interest revenue, and that's rates going up. the budget was built on way less than 1%. Now you're getting over 3%. And that, excuse me, obviously makes a big difference. So overall, with those factors, it's looking like you'll be, will come in with a surplus. Be surprising if there isn't a significant surplus. I'm not taking into account any of the flood costs because the great majority, if not all of those, basically all, should be reimbursed between the insurance and FEMA if FEMA becomes necessary. So I think that's basically everything that I wanted to talk about. Yeah. Everything else, the cash position is increasing over time. That obviously is a good situation. So if there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Very good. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thank
you're
you,
welcome.
Alan.
Thanks, Alan.
Any questions for Alan? Or any comments? Okay.
Oh, if I may.
So yeah, I was gonna
I'm
say.
sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I don't want to complain because what the folks up in Belmont went through, I have no room to complain, but for whatever reason, the laptop was not cooperating this time around. I kept losing Excel. It would just stop. And every time that happened, I lost all my work that hadn't been saved
Gosh.
to that point. It happened at least a half dozen times. I got to every 5 minutes I was saving.
Wow.
But like I said, I don't really have a lot of room to complain compared to
No,
what everyone else had to
but
go
seriously,
through.
did you find out why that was happening, or?
It has never happened with this laptop before, and it hasn't since I was under the gun to get the reports done. It just knew that I had to get the reports
That's what it
done.
was.
It's, I worked till I think 9:30, 10 o'clock Thursday night.
To get it going.
Yeah.
I had the
don't know
same thing
why.
with my laptop in the administrative assistant interview process. It was taking me longer and longer and longer working off the laptop. So it's probably just a lot of us, and just the traffic maybe.
I didn't know if there was something with the server or what, but because it hasn't happened since. So anyway.
Yeah, it happened when you needed it the most, right?
Exactly.
All right. So Alan, just a
Yes.
quick overview. You look at this, a few things they have to happen. They have to fall into place for us to get to a balanced budget at the end of the fiscal year. Is that quite correct there, or?
Well, like I said, I'd be very shocked if you didn't have a significant deficit in water sales. When that was budgeted, it's budgeted for 11 million. That was based on last year was almost 10 million, and there's a 15.9%, if memory serves, rate increase. So, if you take 10 million at 15%, well, you're going to be should be well over 11 million. And it's looking like it's going to come in about where last year was, which is about 9.8. As far as that goes. 2 years ago, without the rate increase, it was 11. So I don't think, it wasn't Pollyanna coming up with the $11 million projected sales.
Correct,
when the
yeah.
budget was built. Again, because the purchase of the water is so expensive. If you don't sell the water, you don't have to buy the water, and immediately half of your deficit goes away from that, or even a little bit more than half. And then I haven't looked into the reason why the personnel costs are running so under budget. I do know when the budget's built, for any new hires, anything like that, I put them at the highest possible medical insurance or other benefits, because it's never a problem if they're less than budgeted. but certainly
It's
is at
it's
the moment.
mostly vacancies. We've all been,
That's
running
what I
2 and 3
figured.
jobs. And then
Yeah.
it's some of our cash outs. Ron and I, we're heavy on the cash outs, and we're in the second part of the year, right?
Yeah.
So we're part of that with our upcoming retirements.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I'll have to look at the cash outs when I finish
Yeah,
up
they-
with the mid-year.
yeah.
So, yeah, that may affect what I was thinking will come in. Thanks for reminding me. I'm making note
Yeah,
of that.
I was going to get with you next week, Rena, and
Yeah.
Kat and I talked about it, and it's going to be a good training opportunity for Kat. And so I'll schedule some time to meet with you next week.
Yeah, but I knew there were vacancies, and
Mhm.
that is a cost savings. It's harder on the people, but yeah.
Very good. All right. Any more comments or questions for Alan? All right, we'll move on. Thank you, Alan.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much. Okay, we have that. So now to go to director's reports. Director's report. Anybody? So I'll start from, I don't know, the top. Director Jordan, anything?
I did attend the HIA monthly meeting earlier this month with yourself, Director Wheeler, and Rena. I'm trying to remember. It seems like so long ago.
You're right. You are so right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other than that, no. I have my my monthly meeting with Rena prior to the board meeting to
Very good.
prepare. Yep.
Very
That's
good.
it.
Okay, Director Wheeler.
Yeah, as she said, I attended the HIA meeting. That was about the only other one, the only meeting that I had this month.
Okay, very good. Director Schmidt.
Nothing to report.
All right, good. Yeah, I did attend a couple of meetings. I attended the oh, by the way, Director Wheeler, I know you attended at least one, if not more, about the daily briefing from the county on the storm
Yes.
virtually. Yeah, because I saw you on one of them. Yeah, so I attended those. There were updates from the county manager on the situation on the storm impacts throughout the county. And there was a session that was directed to elected officials and another one for operations people. And I know Dr. Wheeler attended a couple of those, and I did too. And I attended the County Board of Supervisors meeting when they had the election of the board president and vice president and the organization of that. I represented the district at that meeting. And the HIA meeting that was mentioned already. So that was it for me. And then we did the visits to Dairy Lane to see what was going on, especially after the storm, and the work that our staff was doing to mitigate the damage as much as possible. And that's it. Communications. Monique or Rena?
Yeah, I have one. Actually, former board member and board president Betty Linville reached out to me late last week, and some of you may know she's an artist. She likes to paint, and so she mentioned to me that she would like to donate this portrait that she created of Martin Luther King to the district to hang in our office space. And I told her what had happened to us, and I said, well, let me share this with the board that you want to donate this gift, and a really nice job. And if you're interested in seeing some more for work and other artists' work, you can go to this website, and it's yourartpro.com. So when you put that in your web browser and then hit return, you'll find a list of about 10 or 12 artists, and she's one of them, and you can see their work. So I just want to let the board know that the former board member and president would like to donate this to the board. And I told her I was going to share this with you all, and then contact her next week and set up a time and an appointment and go out and meet with her, and then actually introduce her to Kat and Monique, and you know, see what we can do to take this portrait of you know, Mr. King, and to post it at some point in time in one of our offices, a temporary office, and or maybe eventually in an office when we get located again permanently. So I just wanted to share that with the board.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Anything else on communication?
Not for me.
That's it. Anything from anybody else, Monique or Tammy, on communication? No, okay,
Not for me, thank you.
very good. All right, so that
Not
would
for
be
me.
it. So we're going to go to the closed session.
And everybody has the invitation?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we did. I did.
Okay.
So thank you, Kat. All right, so we're gonna log off here, right?
Mhm.
Leave,
Yep,
and then we'll meet on the other side.
Good
correct.
night.
See
All
ya.
right, good
Okay.
night.
Good night.
Thank you all. Good night.
See ya.
See you in a bit.
So we're reconvening, Louis,
Mm-hmm.
and there is no reportable action.
Very good. That's it.
That's it.
All
That's
right.
it.
Good night, everyone. Thank you,
Meeting
Kat.
adjourned at 9:48.
Thanks,
And-
everybody. Have a great weekend.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Okay, thank you, Monique. Thank you, Renee. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Julie. Thank you, Kat. Okay, good
Bye.
night. Bye-bye.